So he told me that his white supremacist sect or cell were the ones that were feeding all of those things to the Herald, including the list of their names. And
Is that right?
said, because there is, and then he went on his kind of rant, and then he was like, there's this conspiracy and we need these people outed and blah, blah, blah. And he goes, and no one will pay you to do this. But like
so
volunteering.
He was trying to out you?
No, this is the complicated nature of racism, is he loved my poetry. So he wanted to tell me the connection, say how much he loved my poems, but also say that the reason why my name had been published in the Herald was because he was from the white supremacist cell that flooded the Herald with all sorts of information. He was like, it's amazing how much of ours
was he kind of fanning, saying he was doing you a favour?
No, he was genuinely, because I just read all my poetry at this thing, and he was genuinely moved by them, and he was excited that he was part of my story. And he was like Tapu Misa, anything she writes, we just bombard her. These are like the original trolls, but they were organised. And so after, I just smiled at him and went, what do you say?
What do you do with that?
Now, can you recall a snippet of that poem for us at all?
Yes, I could. My phone. I could.
You can't.
It's online. Eating dark. Yes. Well, can I borrow your phone and I will?
Let's do it while we talk about.
While you're doing that, because we've only got a minute and a half or so to go. So, Wallace in the panel, Lloyd Gearing wrote eloquently about the rise of extremism. It comes from poor news agency and globalisation with breeds generalising. The problem isn't hatred or racism, these are symptoms. The problem is fear and sometimes ignorance. All aggression is based on fear, and a good bit of fear is based on influence.
I think there's a lot in that.
There you go. So a lot of wonderful texts coming through as well. And also a lot on violence and video games. My 6-year-old would think we should ban cigarettes and ban violent video games. Why don't we do the obvious thing, says Michael from Christchurch. So wonderful stuff. We've only got about a minute to go, Carla, so if you do have...
Well, so here we go.
Yay.
Tonight, Paul Holmes apologised to the nation. I am 28. Aucklander jokes about Jaffas don't involve Māoris and Minis anymore. Just another effing Aucklander. The PIs here outnumber prejudice in wide open spaces. Skinheads, low-key. Less closely shorn, too much rugby league brawn on the arms of coconuts, and I've been told I'm the cream rising to the top, the cream of the crop. Nesian Queen, rank and file member of the chocolate soldier movement, getting down with the brown. Tonight, Paul Holmes apologised. Sorry, he said. I've hurt my family. I may have hurt yours. Yes, we scrapped in the car over it. There was yelling. By the time we got to the end of the Mangere motorway, I was crying. Who is this redneck with the big brown shoulders sitting next to me, anti-PC, darker than me, defending freedom of speech? But I don't want it to be all right. I don't want my kids to have stanzas of darky memories.
That is the best bit of radio all this week on the panel. Carla Miller, Tim Auckland, thank you very, very much for being with us. So we're going to leave you with some highlights from the memorial for the victims of the Christchurch mosque shootings from Helling Park today. Have a peaceful weekend.
We learn about things through their opposites, and it's through opposites like this, the evilness of that act and what drove it. We find its opposite, which is the love and kindness and unity which has sprung up right here in New Zealand.
Yaki yaki, this is Checkpoint on RNZ National. I'm Alex Perrottet. Tonight, a country stops to mourn, to remember and to unite against fear and terror. The Prime Minister, watched by leaders from around the world and a large crowd in Christchurch, challenges New Zealand to keep showing there's a cure to hate. Survivors watched from their hospital beds. We'll hear from Ala Senawi, who's been told it will be years before he walks again. We'll also hear from a man now described as a national treasure. Why and how did Farid Ahmed choose to forgive? We'll cross to Lisa Owen in Christchurch. We'll also have the latest on Brexit. MPs are breaking up the vote on breaking up with Europe. They'll try to do it in pieces starting tonight. You can watch us live on Facebook, rnz.co.nz/checkpoint, Freeview and Sky Channel 83.
RNZ News at 5. Kia ora, ko Susana Leia Tawa tēnei. A National Day of Remembrance for those killed in the mosque attacks 2 weeks ago has drawn to a close. The main service drew thousands to North Hagley Park to hear speeches, songs, prayers and the reading out of the names of all 50 people who died. Speakers included Muslim leaders, the Prime Minister, the Mayor of Christchurch and the Governor-General. A sustained standing ovation followed the speech by Farid Ahmed, whose wife Husna was killed in the shootings, in which he himself was wounded. Seated in a wheelchair, he told those gathered he'd forgiven the gunman.
I don't support his wrong action, but at the same time, I cannot deny the fact that he is my human brother. Each human being is my brother, is my sister. This is my faith, and this is what Allah has taught me. That's why I do not hate him, and I cannot hate him. I cannot hate anyone.
Farid Ahmed. The Australian Prime Minister Scott Morrison, who was at the service, says it came from a place of great hope.
And that's been expressed, I think, so beautifully by the people of New Zealand in the only way they know how to, with a smile, with a beautiful Māori song. Christchurch in New Zealand has responded to that call for kia kaha by doing exactly that, by staying strong.
Scott Morrison. The Australian opposition leader Bill Shorten was also there.
It was an Australian who did this, and that has been a common comment I've heard from a lot of Australians. Australians are ashamed that this person was an Australian. And so New Zealand's our nearest friend, so that's why we're here.
Bill Shorten, who along with Scott Morrison and the Australian Governor-General Sir Peter Cosgrove laid flowers at the Al Noor Mosque before the service. A Christchurch bus driver is facing disciplinary action after a complaint about racist behaviour towards a Muslim woman. Several school students who were leaving a memorial event for the mosque attacks on Tuesday last week say a red bus driver purposely shut the door in the face of a woman wearing a hijab. The chief executive of Red Bus, Paul McNose, says that having looked at video footage, he can confirm the door was shut in her face and there was space on the bus. He says such behaviour is unacceptable.
We'd like to, for the young lady, it wasn't her who made the complaint, it was some bystanders. We'd very much like to be able to apologise to her directly if we could identify who she was.
Paul McNose says because of privacy concerns he can't say what action the driver is facing, but people can be assured such behaviour won't be repeated. Interim name suppression has been extended for the man accused of assaulting the Green Party co-leader James Shaw until his next court appearance. The 47-year-old reappeared in the Wellington District Court today on one charge of injuring with intent to injure. Anne-Marie May was there.
Mr Shaw suffered a fractured eye socket when he was attacked near the capital's Botanic Gardens just over 2 weeks ago. Judge Jan Kelly ordered a mental health report on the defendant's sanity and fitness to stand trial. The man's lawyer sought continued name suppression until the report is received, and the police did not oppose that. The judge remanded the defendant on continued bail to reappear in May, but refused his lawyer's request that a bail condition precluding him from travelling into Wellington City be lifted. In Wellington, Anne-Marie May.
Junior hospital doctors have voted to strike for a fifth time this year, now that bargaining with the district health boards has stalled this month. Members of the Resident Doctors Association will strike for 4 days from April the 15th, but not in Canterbury because of the terror attacks. A union advocate, David Munro, says they voted overwhelmingly to strike. Further mediation is planned for next Friday. Swimmers are being warned to stay out of Wellington's inner harbour and off its popular dive platforms until the source of raw sewage is found. A water sample taken from the waterfront on Wednesday has shown levels of faecal bacteria in the millions. A spokesperson for Wellington Water, Alex Van Parson, says it contained more than 1 million colony-forming units of faecal bacteria per 100 millilitres.
That is ridiculously high, really. The normal levels are around in the low hundreds, so, quite a bit lower. So it's just quite a remarkable result, really, that has lent quite a lot of urgency to tracking this particular source of contamination down.
Alex Van Parsons says it's believed the sewage may be the result of an illegal connection between sewage and stormwater pipes, leading to contamination near the stormwater outlet. It's 5:05. Crusaders coach Scott Robertson has no doubts All Blacks captain Kieran Reid is ready to return straight to the starting side for tonight's Super Rugby derby against the Hurricanes in Wellington. Reid will play his first game of the season at number 8, and while some All Blacks have returned to their Super Rugby teams off the bench, Robertson says he had no hesitation in naming Reid to start.
Contact's great, running metres is great. He's experienced, he can come in and play, with no game time previously. He did that last year and was really successful in doing it, so every confidence in the hundreds of games he's played just to run out there and perform.
Scott Robertson. Meanwhile, All Black Damian McKenzie will start at full black for the Chiefs against the Jaguars in Buenos Aires on Sunday morning after getting dispensation to play his 6th straight game. Defending Supercars champion Scott McLaughlin will be the hardest hit by the rule changes imposed after his rivals complained of an unfair advantage. All Ford and Holden teams must make centre of gravity tweaks to their cars as a result of tests on 10 vehicles. Following complaints, the new Mustang had an advantage. Both Tickford Racing and Ford heavyweights DJR team Penske have begrudgingly agreed to the changes. The ballast will be repositioned in Mustangs and Commodores so their centre of gravity matches that of the slower Nissans. That's the news.
Tonight on Nights, Country Life visits the dairy operation of Southland Mosque Imam Reza Abdul Jabbar to talk about family, faith and farming. Shaifu and his mates, the Crates, are this week's Friday Night Live act, and given we'll be coming at the end of a national day of mourning, we thought we'd dedicate this week's Sonic Tonic to hope. That's Nights with me, Brian Crump. Afternoon news at 7 on RNZ National.
Now the short forecast from Met Service to midnight tomorrow. Northland to Taranaki, including Coromandel, Bay of Plenty and Central High Country, Gisborne and Hawke's Bay. Scattered showers, some possibly heavy, mainly during the afternoon and evenings. Whanganui to Wellington, mostly fine. Wairarapa, cloudy periods with isolated light showers. Bulla to Fiordland, mainly fine today, a few showers tomorrow, some possibly heavy about the ranges from the afternoon. Nelson, Marlborough, Canterbury, Otago and Southland, fine, apart from areas of cloud, mainly morning and evening. Chatham Islands, cloudy periods with a few showers. It's coming up to 8 minutes past 5. You're with RNZ National, and let's now go to Lisa Owen, who is live in Christchurch.
Thanks, Susanna. You're listening to Checkpoint and I'm Lisa Owen. I am outside the Al Noor Mosque this evening, where 2 weeks ago 43 of the 50 people who were killed in the shootings died. And just a short distance from here today there was a national remembrance service, and I can say that the mood seems to have shifted from the initial shock and grief and anger to a different kind of feeling. And in fact, today's service was incredibly uplifting, and one of the main themes was hope and forgiveness. And there were a number of speeches given today that resonated with the crowd. The Prime Minister got a standing ovation. Let's go to some of her words. Our challenge now is to make the very best of us a daily reality, because we are not immune to the viruses of hate, of fear, of other. We never have been. But we can be the nation that discovers the cure. Stirring words from the Prime Minister Jacinda Ardern to the thousands of people who had gathered for a national remembrance service for the Christchurch terror attacks. People watched from Hagley Park, they watched at town halls and at other parks around the country, and they watched from around the globe too.
Oh, I've been happy lately, thinking about the good things to come, and I believe it could be something good has begun. Oh, I've been smiling lately.
Today marked a complete change in tone. This was about getting up again.
And I believe it could be someday it's gonna come. 'Cause out we learn about things through their opposites, and it's through opposites like this, the evilness of that act and what drove it, we find its opposite, which is the love and kindness and unity which has sprung up right here in New Zealand.
Yusuf Islam, also known as Cat Stevens, performing his hit song, Peace Train, to the thousands that gathered in Hagley Park. The devout Muslim convert, one of the star performers for the dozens of special guests at the service, each paying tribute to the 50 lives lost at the Al Noor and Linwood mosques on March the 15th.
I stand before you today with the mixture of feelings. I feel deeply saddened. I am saddened that when I look for them, I can no longer see the beautiful faces of the 50 men and women and children that lived among us only 14 days ago. And although our eyes shed tears and our hearts mourn, we know that they are at peace.
One after the other, the names of the dead were read out by members of the Muslim community.
أسامة عدنان يوسف أبو كويك حسنى أحمد.
Farid Ahmed, whose wife Husna died in the Al Noor attack, spoke to the crowd. His message summed up in just one word: forgiveness.
How can I hate my human brother? I don't agree with what he has done. I don't support what he has done. Probably he has misunderstood the whole thing. Probably he had gone through some suffering in his life. Some traumatic thing happened to him, and he could not process well his suffering into the constructive way. That's why I don't support his wrong action, but at the same time, I cannot deny the fact that he is my human brother. We all want peace. We say that we want peace. But we got to start from somewhere. We have to start cleaning our own heart first. We have to change our attitude. If our heart is full of love, then peace will start from here. And each one of us has responsibility. From wherever we are, we have responsibility at least to start from our heart.
Among the speeches, an impromptu gesture to a father who was killed in the shootings. The young daughter of Ashraf Al-Morzi Raghib braving the crowd to share a few words.
Assalamu alaikum, I'm Salma Rajab, and my father is Ashraf Al-Morzi Rajab. He passed away on 15th of March 2019. He was a really nice man. Yeah. Thank you.
There was a standing ovation for the Prime Minister.
Ero rangatira mā, ina reo, ina mana, tina koutou katoa.
Wearing a korowai, she spoke of a community united by a few simple words.
What words adequately express the pain and suffering of 50 men, women and children lost, and so many injured? What words capture the anguish of our Muslim community being the target of hatred and violence? What words express the grief of a city that has already known so much pain? I thought there were none. And then I came here and was met with this simple greeting. Assalamu alaikum, peace be upon you. They were simple words, repeated by community leaders who witnessed the loss of their friends and loved ones. Simple words whispered by the injured from their hospital beds. Simple words spoken by the bereaved and everyone I met who has been affected by this attack. Assalamu alaikum. Peace be upon you.
Jacinda Ardern gave her thanks for the outpouring of love in response to the attacks and said everyone had a responsibility to combat hate.
Racism exists, but it is not welcome here. An assault on the freedom of any one of us who practices their faith or religion is not welcome here. Violence and extremism in all its forms is not welcome here.
A message echoed by the city's mayor, Leanne Dalzell.
We now know where this can end. We need to look in the mirror, be honest about who we are, and we must all pledge to being a city of inclusion that genuinely embraces diversity every day. Ōtautahi Christchurch is a city of peace. We are a city committed to honouring human rights. We need to make this real, and we can help lead the way.
A sense of duty and raw courage saw people pour into Hagley Park.
I haven't been able to bring myself to visit any of the memorial sites or anything yet, so I thought I was going to be brave today and come down and bring my kids down, just to sort of be part of it and show them that it's okay.
It's just wanting to be there to help people feel safe. It's the same reason I wear this. I mean, it's not my religion, but it's also not against my religion to wear it. No, I just wanted to come out and help people feel safe. I'm a great-grandma, so I'm showing that to my family.
I mostly felt sad.
Can you explain that a little bit to me?
Like sad that someone would do that to someone because of their race and religion.
A day to remember the victims who were described as shining souls and to let go of anger. And in the words of Farid Ahmed, now is the time to fill our hearts with love and mercy. We're in North Hagley Park and I just want to show you a little bit of what is happening. Over my shoulder we can still see people walking across the park. There has been a steady flow of people coming to prayers and an area has been set up for everybody to pray. So if we just look over my shoulder here, in the corner of Hagley Park there are hundreds of people from the Muslim community taking part in afternoon prayers. Obviously this is a Friday afternoon, it's a big day for prayers. There is a water truck that has been brought in so that they can carry out all the rituals that are associated with their prayers, washing before they go in to pray. People have walked across the field here from the service earlier in the day and you could see dotted around a lot of police officers. They're everywhere. And if we just walk around, you can see just spread across the field to reassure the community so that they can pray in peace. And if we just follow up, there's a fire truck here. It's called an aerial platform. And Stan is just going to show you as we go up. It's about 25 metres, the fire service tells me, in the air. And right up the top on that platform, you can see a police officer in what is kind of like a cherry picker, a basket at the top. And that officer is watching over this group as they pray. More people just turning up now. And if you just follow me, going in for prayers. And you can hear. Let's go a little closer. And along here you can see the pipe from the water truck with the individual taps, which is where people can come in and wash before they pray. My brothers and sisters. And the truck just to our left, and we know that Yusuf Islam, formerly known as Cat Stevens, is among the people here. He's near the front of the group praying, and also in there with him are a number of people who were injured in those attacks a fortnight ago. Some of them have come in wheelchairs so that they can participate today, and we can hear the Imam speaking to the crowd at the moment.
Let us send a strong message that we will never be
divided in our efforts.
And the message he is saying that is we are sending a strong message today that we will never be divided. And I can hear, well, earlier in the day there was a helicopter flying overhead while we were over at the remembrance. Just every now and again when it was slightly quiet, you could just hear the ever-present hum of the chopper above. Obviously, again, people keeping an eye on the situation.
That was Lisa Owen reporting in North Hagley Park after the remembrance service in Christchurch this morning. But one man who couldn't make it to the service in person was Al Sinawi. That's because he's in Christchurch Hospital with 2 bullet fragments still in his thigh following the attacks at the Al Noor Mosque behind us 2 weeks ago. He spoke to cameraman Simon Rogers and I from hospital this afternoon, and the events of that tragic Friday are still very fresh in his mind.
At 1:45 is just we heard shootings, but we thought that it's not shooting, it's just a fireworks or something like that, because actually we're not expecting even our dreams things will happen in Christchurch, such like what happened. Then the first round of shootings, about 4 or 5 bullets. Then we hit another, this is a machine gun, around 5 or 6 bullets, and I saw some smoke coming from the corridor towards the main room, prayer main room. Nobody says, just people, some of them start saying Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, God is great, God is great. Then everybody rushed to a small little door, will take you back to the mosque. And we were running, and we don't have anything to protect ourselves. It's just going for prayer. As I told you, we never expect such, an act will happen to us. Then, because the people rushing, then I fell down, and about, 2 or 3 people at the top of me. But no one is, saying any word. No, it's very calm, and, it's, I don't know how it happened. Even, when he was shooting the people, nobody screamed, nobody say something, or just to show that he's in pain. Just shooting the people, they died when, it's about 50 people died, and, nobody say any word. I don't know how it happened, to be honest with you. When he shot me, I felt like, a water pipe broken, and, the blood flushed. It's just, I hit that in my body. But I didn't make any movement. I didn't say anything. Then he killed the 2 people at the top of me. I don't know if they died, but I think he killed them. He shot them in the head. Because their blood coming still I feel their blood coming from them to my body. It's a warm and, just hot blood coming to my head and my t-shirt. He left us for a while, and he went back shooting somewhere in the mosque. I think he saw another group, he started shooting them. He came back maybe 30 seconds, 40 seconds. It's a very long time, but I can tell it was only about 30, 40 seconds. He shot about 2 or 3 people maybe, and he shot me with another bullet. It was the last bullet he shot in the mosque. Fortunately, they came and took me, but it's very harmful when they put me on that thing. It's because actually it's the bone is cracked from the top of the hip up to the knee. They call it a butterfly crack.
that causing you a lot of pain now?
Yeah, that's why. That's the pain is actually caused by not by maybe the crack or in the bones. It's from the vein, from nerve. My nerve is 2/3 cut. When I came in here, they took me to the operation theater, and I took them 3-4 hours to stitch the one and to fix. They put platinum rod in here, two bolts in the hip joint ball in here.
So you've had to have metal rods put inside your thigh?
Yeah, and one in 2 bolts in here and 2 bolts in here. It's about 30 centimeters rod or something. Whenever I remember, some of them I was just 10 minutes before we were talking and chatting and just hear that they gone away and never come back again. And when my son, he was helping in washing the bodies, and he told me how bad the injuries for the people who got killed. It's make me very sad.
Today you watched a little bit of the remembrance service. Yeah. What did you think?
You know, I think it's really good, and you find all the people in the city, even New Zealand. They are very supportive, and it's just they understand what's going on, and they are very furious of what happened, because actually we people in New Zealand, we are not used to such an act. It's the safest country in the world. It's something happened like that. It's unbelievable.
Has that changed things for you, living in Christchurch after this?
Not at all. Not at all. It's just that it happened. It's just a crazy man done that incident. Will not change things for me. Will not let me think even 1 second to leave Christchurch.
And will you go back to pray at the mosque when you can?
Yes, but it seems to me it takes a long time, as doctor said. So maybe it takes 3 years to start walking.
3 years before you might be able to walk again?
Yeah, that's what they said. I hope not.
That was Al Sinawi speaking to me from Christchurch Hospital just a few hours ago. And I'll be back here in Christchurch after 6 o'clock, but until then, back to you, Alex, in the studio.
Thanks very much, Logan. Logan Church there, just across the road from the Al Noor Mosque on Deans Avenue in Christchurch. Coming up on Checkpoint on RNZ National, how cities and towns, large and small, came together for the remembrance service. And more than 100 men trapped in Vanuatu in what could be the Pacific's biggest ever human trafficking case. We'd love your feedback, of course. You can text us on 2101 and tweet us at Checkpoint RNZ. We're on Facebook, Checkpoint, or you can email us at checkpoint@rnz.co.nz. First, here's Susanna Leatawa with the headlines.
Thousands have rallied in Christchurch and across the country for New Zealand's National Day of Remembrance for those killed in the Christchurch mosque attacks. Muslim leaders, along with the Prime Minister and Governor-General, delivered messages of tolerance, peace, hope and forgiveness. The singer Yusuf Islam, also known as Cat Stevens, told the crowd at Hagley Park that love and unity are the basis of all religions. A Christchurch bus driver is facing disciplinary action over a complaint of racist behaviour towards a Muslim woman. School students leaving a memorial for the mosque attacks last Tuesday reported a red bus company driver purposefully shutting the door in the face of a woman who was wearing a hijab. The company says video footage confirms the bus door was shut in her face while there was still space on the bus. It says the behaviour is unacceptable and would like to apologise to the woman. Junior hospital doctors have voted to strike again, this time for 4 days from April the 15th, but not in Canterbury because of the terror attacks. The man accused of assaulting the Green Party co-leader James Shaw is allowed to keep his name secret while a mental health report is completed on his sanity and fitness to stand trial. Mr Shaw suffered a fractured eye socket when he was attacked near the capital's Botanic Gardens just over 2 weeks ago. Swimmers are being warned to stay out of the water in Wellington's inner harbour and off its popular dive platforms because of raw sewage contamination. 900 owners of vehicles who may have been wrongly given warrants of fitness by a Waikato garage are being offered vouchers to have their vehicles rechecked free of charge. Vehicle Inspector Oliver Wilson and his business Cambridge Auto Electric have been suspended for serious failings. Most seriously, the failure to spot corrosion and seatbelt damage. The state of emergency declared in Westland has been lifted, but Fox Glacier is still without phone or internet services and the power is off in Haast. Those are our headlines. We'll have our next news and weather update at 6.
Thanks very much, Susanna. We'll catch up with you then. Before that, Madison Reedy is here for the business news. How are you?
I'm very good, Alex. How are you?
Yeah, not too bad.
Good to see you.
Likewise, Hallenstein Glassons, the fashion retailer, half-year result came out today. How did they go?
In the 6 months to February, it had a net profit after tax of $16 million. Now that's up 5.9%, almost a whole 6% on that same period last year. Its sales were up to 3.1% to $151.3 million. So both of its brands, Glassons, the fast fashion women's retailer, and Hallenstein Brothers, the men's fast fashion retailer, both of their sales were up around 1.5%. So that's a pretty good result for the company Hallenstein Glassons. Now that's also despite retailers experiencing some pretty difficult trading conditions over summer and the Christmas period. Now that was seen in Glassons, Hallenstein Glassons' result in its gross margin. So it actually did make a smaller margin off its apparel that it sold. That's because it had to discount it over the summer months. But it does say it's going to keep investing. It's going to keep investing in its online website because sales there are up too. And it's not going to do away with bricks and mortar stores. It's going to refurbish some of those to try and increase its market share both here and across the Tasman.
Great. Of course, business confidence survey yesterday, meaning the consumer confidence survey is out today. What are the results there?
Well, consumers are pretty much feeling about the same, actually. Okay. So the ANZ Roy Morgan Consumer Confidence Index that came out today was up just 1 point to 122 points in March. Now, that's around a historically average level. That's because consumers are feeling a bit more worried about their own financial situation. Fewer of them think that it's a good time to buy a big ticket item like a washing machine or a couch if you need one of those, Alex. but more do expect that they will be better off financially in about a year's time. Now, interestingly, Aucklanders were the most confident. Their confidence level was at an annual high, the highest we've seen in the past year. But on the flip side of that, Southlanders and Cantabrians were the least confident in the country. Now, to note there, the results on the Consumer Confidence Survey did come in through March, right up to the 24th of March. So some of the results did come through after the Christchurch terror attack. So that probably played its part there too. But across the board, confidence is holding up for consumers, but the lid is being kept on growth. Now that's because people are pretty worried about the economic outlook both here and overseas. All economists are telling us that we should be worried. Even the Reserve Bank itself this week said they were worried too.
Things are slowing. Well, how about the dollar? Is that slowing?
The dollar is not slowing. So the New Zealand dollar is buying at 67.8 US cents, 95.7 to the Australian and 51.9 British pence. The NZX also is not slowing down. That closed up at 0.8% tonight. That's 78.7 points up this evening. Now that's to close at a record high for the NZX in its lifetime of 9,844 points. And just a fun mention there as well, the aerospace company Rocket Lab launched its fourth electron rocket from the Mahia Peninsula near Gisborne today, and interestingly it was carrying a communications payload for the United States Defence Force Research Agency. It weighed about 150 kilograms.
Wow.
Fun fact for your Friday, Alex.
Things are going up.
Some things.
Thanks so much. Go on, you matey. Madison Reedy there with the latest in the business world. It's 26 minutes to 6. After today's remembrance service, there was a call to prayer at a cordoned-off area in Christchurch's Hagley Park. Mayor Leanne Dalzell spoke to Lisa Owen just as those prayers were beginning.
Provision was made for people to be able to walk over
from that area to this area where they could have their prayers. So very special.
It is, and I see obviously you've brought in a water truck, the significance of that, so obviously...
Yeah, well last week when we were invited to come to the call to prayer, of course the whole team at the council got to understand what the requirements are for washing, for kneeling and praying, you know, so all of those things have been taken care of so that they can just come and express their faith, which is really important that they are able to do that.
So you've learnt a lot in a week?
I think we've learnt a lot even in the past 2 weeks. We've learnt a lot about ourselves. We've learnt a lot about our Muslim communities, and we've learnt a lot about how different people express their faith, but more than anything else we've learnt about the capacity for love. Hearing, you know, particularly Farid speak today about how, you know, he had room in his heart for someone who stole the life of his wife. You know, it was just, I don't know, it was just the most powerful expression of love and the complete opposite of what happened 2 weeks ago.
What do you think when we stand here and you can see that there's a steady stream of people coming to the park to wash, to go on to pray in this public space, and it's something really we've not seen before? Yes, we saw a bit of that last week, but, well, as the leader of the city, what do you think?
It makes me feel like our city has grown up. Our city has reached out and begun to understood what it is to meet the needs of all of our communities that make up our city.
There were some very touching moments at the service this morning. You've mentioned Farid, the survivor who spoke. Were there other things that you will remember for a very long time from what was said this morning?
I think that having all the names read out, obviously, it did strike home the enormity of 50 lives taken, and also the impact that that's had on so many family members. But of course the injuries too. I've been into the hospital to visit there, and you know, there are people who are going to be struggling for a very long time. I think that, well, I mean, Farid really did, in my view, really make the case for this powerful response to what was an act of hatred with his expression of love. The Prime Minister, yet again, I mean, we saw the response from the crowd. She has absolutely struck a chord, and I think that change will come from what has happened here. And as I've said to a number of people since this horrific event occurred, the change won't come because of what he did. The change will come because of how people responded.
Christchurch Mayor Leanne Dalzell with Lisa Owen earlier today. As thousands in Christchurch stood together during the service today, New Zealanders in other pockets of the country stood with them. In the capital, the Wellington Orchestra and Pacifica Choir welcomed about 500 people onto Waitangi Park. But it wasn't just the big cities. Many smaller centres live-streamed the service, including Blenheim, Mount Maunganui, Hamilton and Palmerston North. In Whanganui, more than 40 people gathered at the museum, and Lee Marama McLaughlin was there.
Joining in karakia and waiata before turning on the big screen. People greeted armed police as they entered a quaint lecture theatre at the Whanganui Regional Museum, where the national commemoration was being live-streamed. Anita Durkia says the shootings really got to her.
It's affected me quite a lot, actually, because I'm from Mauritius myself. I'm an immigrant. Well, established here. I've been here 28 years. It's just when it happened, it really knocked the socks out of me, because I've lived in England and nothing. I mean, there's supremacists everywhere. There's, you know, racism everywhere. But to come across here in New Zealand, where it's a very peaceful, loving country, I never expected this.
In the darkened room, people stood up to sing Wakaria Mai, He Honore and the national anthem, and clapped after the speeches. Iha Pere Estepa wanted to be with her community to mark the commemoration.
I think it's most important, and it shows how connected we are, you know. And I was wondering, is it going to show on TV? Maybe I should stay at home. No, come, you know, and be with the community here in Wanganui. Yeah, and I think it's the best thing we can do.
The president of the Islamic Association, Mukarram Mairaj, got up and thanked everyone for their support and also sought to dispel the myth that Islam is a violent religion.
In the end, I just want to thank you very much. Just read something about Islam as a subject, just that what are the basic teachings. Basic teachings of all religions are saying no religion teaches violence or hate.
Bob McDougall shed a tear after the service before putting his foot down over gun laws.
Big magazines, semi-automatics, ban them. I don't care what the gun clubs say. I don't care what the other shooters and things say. They're not necessary.
Stan Hood says the past fortnight has brought out the best of New Zealand.
The thing that stood out for me was the fact that we're a people who really embrace diversity. We're a people who have our doors open for those who come in need, seeking solace and shelter.
After the service, Councillor Josh Chancellor Mackay told the community to be kind and inclusive to all people, especially the many refugee families set to move here from next year. In Whanganui, mo te hōtaka o te ahi pō, ko li Marama McLaughlin tēnei.
And up in Auckland, Amy Williams went along to Eden Park.
Hundreds of people huddled into a prayer room at Eden Park to pray and reflect on the last 2 weeks. In a sermon, Sheikh Mohammed Shakir Ismail called on New Zealanders from all cultures to be proactive about trying to understand each other.
We need to learn about each other from each other and not from the media or what people may think. Our mosques, synagogues, churches, marais and religious centers should be funded so that people could come in and learn more about the religions and the people.
After prayers, they joined hundreds more gathered in Eden Park's South Stand. People came from all over Auckland to stand together with the Muslim community.
I've not been to anything yet to kind of remember the people from Christchurch, and I felt that this would be a good opportunity.
Watched live last Friday, but I wasn't able to be with other people. I just wanted to be somewhere in public.
I'm from Christchurch originally and quite emotional about what's happened there.
After prayers, children from nearby Kowhai Intermediate started the remembrance service with a waiata. National and local politicians attended, including Mayor Phil Goff, who told the crowd every individual should be free to follow their faith. Muslim All-Black Sonny Bill Williams says while he was saddened by how little people had known about Islam before the tragedy, he was heartened by the compassion and empathy shown since.
We cannot and will not allow such acts to deter us from loving one another. And just like in the last couple of weeks, New Zealanders, I just want to say let's keep leading the way. Let's keep being that light in stormy waters for the rest of the world to see how it's done. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Muslim Association President Clark Kashkari asked people to continue to show love and kindness in coming weeks and months.
But lastly, I want to say, please keep the aroha coming, please keep the love coming, so we can continue this dialogue, we can continue bringing more peace and prosperity to our country.
You were sacrificed much to be.
Dave Dobbin closed the service with his anthem Welcome Home, leaving Auckland with its heart wide open.
So welcome home. I bid you welcome. We bid you welcome.
In Auckland for Checkpoint, ko Amy Williams tēnei.
Off to Dunedin now, where a small but intimate crowd sat in solemn silence as the National Remembrance Service was broadcast into the city's town hall. Dunedin's Muslim community stood alongside those of all beliefs to pay tribute to the 50 lives lost a fortnight ago. Our Otago Southland reporter Timothy Brown was at the town hall.
As the tragic news filtered out to the country 2 weeks ago, one detail stuck with the residents of Dunedin. The accused gunman had called the city home and lived here for almost 2 years. That his initial target was Al Huda Mosque in the city's student quarter further rocked the sense of security and safety its residents, and in particular its Muslim community, had felt until now.
فَإِنَّ مَعَ الْأُسْرِ يُسْرًا إِنَّ مَعَ الْأُسْرِ يُسْرًا.
That's Otago Muslim Association President Muhammad Rizwan reading from the Quran. For indeed with hardship will be ease. Verily, after every hardship comes ease. Mr. Rizwan told the crowd the wounds of the Christchurch terror attack will heal with time, that from every hardship comes good, but the victims should never be forgotten.
Sadly, it will become all too easy to forget the lost ones, to become disconnected with the victims. It's human nature. So I urge myself and you to try and not succumb to this, to remember the victims, not as singular, as a number, 50, but as individuals, as members of our whānau.
And Muhammad Rizwan says he has been heartened by the strength and love of that whānau.
Aotearoa, a tiny but mighty nation, the land of the long white cloud at the edge of the world, has become a beacon of hope, the guiding light to help pull the world out of hatred and injustice. I am inspired by you, my whānau, and stand here as a proud Kiwi, kia kaha, New Zealand.
Dunedin Mayor Dave Cull says the past fortnight has taught Dunedin and the nation of the need for a truly inclusive society.
While our city has long been inclusive and diverse, it has sometimes been an inclusiveness that has tolerated difference rather than celebrated it. To be truly inclusive, to truly celebrate diversity, we need to tear down the walls of ignorance. Some of us are scared of what we don't know.
Dunedin's service ended with the waiata, Tu Te Mai Ngā Iwi. Line up together, people, all of us, all of us. That sentiment not just expressed in waiata, but shown today as people came together to honour the lost, as they did last week when 18,000 people packed into Forsyth Bar Stadium to support the Muslim community. Kei o te pōti aho mo te hōtaka o te ahi nei, ko Timothy Brown tēnei.
And in Wellington, Ben Strang attended the Remembrance service at Waitangi Park, which started with an open-air concert.
Surrounded by shipping containers, the Wellington Orchestra and Pacific Choir welcomed people onto Waitangi Park for the Christchurch Remembrance service. About 500 people turned out for the event, some wearing hijabs in yet another display of solidarity for the Muslim community. Armed police surrounded the venue on Wellington's waterfront with bomb-sniffing dogs at the only entrance. But inside the metal barricades that circled the park, the speakers were preaching of a nation of peace and one that rejects hatred in all of its forms. An imam thanked the city for its kindness since the Christchurch attacks.
People flocked to our mosques even before we realized the full extent of the tragedy. Many of the visitors were unable to speak due to their sadness, but their tears and hugs, their flowers and plants, their candles and cards, the hakas and the heartwarming interactions all spoke for them.
The Imam says the Muslim community knows it has a future in New Zealand.
The tremendous show of love and support has given our community the tools and the strength to begin to heal and keep going with life. We are deeply grateful for that.
Wellington Mayor Justin Lester also spoke, saying the nation remains unified and won't be divided.
This country belongs to all of us. And as a nation, we stand shoulder to shoulder with our Muslim brothers and sisters. Their kids are Kiwi kids. They are us.
An imam also led an Islamic prayer before attention turned to the big screens and the proceedings in Christchurch. In Wellington for Checkpoint, Ben Strang.
It's coming up to 10 minutes to 6. I'm Alex Perrottet and you're with Checkpoint on RNZ National. We are keen for your feedback. If you want to get in touch about anything you've heard tonight, if you want to contribute your own tributes to the reflections on the Remembrance Day, if we've got time permitting, of course, we'll try to share that with the rest of Aotearoa as well. You can text us on 2101, tweet us at checkpointrnz or email us checkpoint@rnz.co.nz. Turning to other news now, in the UK, MPs will likely vote for a third time on Brexit, very late tonight New Zealand time, but only on part of the deal negotiated with the European Union. The Parliament has turned it into a game of two halves, just voting on the first part of the deal, which sorts out the UK's departure, and leaving the longer-term part of the deal for the next few weeks. But it's still not certain that even the first part will get through, with both Labour and the Democratic Unionist Party saying they will vote against the withdrawal agreement as it stands. The BBC's Laura Koonsberg reports from Westminster.
They won't just be talked into it. Still too many quarrels about what to do.
Mark is in a real minority here because he's
17.4 million people.
No.
Ministers still want to move forward Theresa May's compromise with the EU to end all the noise.
Politicians of all political parties have a duty to put the national interest first so that we can put this controversy behind us and move on to a brighter future for the British people.
But conversations are over for now with the allies they need, the DUP, who won't back the deal, together with a core of Brexiteers who are still holding out. There's a trickle of Brexiteers who will back Theresa May's deal now she's promised to leave, and they're urging colleagues to join them.
You also want to leave the EU. Guys and girls, it's up to you.
If only it were that simple for Theresa May. Tomorrow she will have another go at getting this place behind her deal. But it's not a third attempt at getting the whole package through, which has already failed twice. You might want to call tomorrow the day of meaningful vote 2.5, because MPs will only be asked to vote on the divorce deal with the European Union. They won't be asked to give another judgment on the whole package, which includes a plan for the long term. Number 10 says it's the last chance to be sure of avoiding a long delay to Brexit. There are so many doubts, though, about the Prime Minister's deal getting through, whether in two halves or at the same time, that behind closed doors, MPs from all parties are hunting for solutions.
Well, I won't be voting for this half deal, and it's another outrage by the Prime Minister trying to circumvent Parliament and attempting to bash us all over the head yet again, and I don't think it will work. And that's why I'm working very closely with colleagues across parties to try and find solutions, because we need a way out of this crisis.
But Number 10 is still trying, to find an escape out of the dark hole they're in.
Laura Koonsberg with that report from Westminster at 7.5 minutes to 6. To the Pacific now, rights groups are concerned for the welfare of dozens of Bangladeshis who say they were trafficked to Vanuatu and are now in limbo there. The 101 men stuck in the capital, Port Vila, have described torture and abuse in what could be the biggest human trafficking case in the Pacific. Mackenzie Smith reports.
Shaheen Khan came to Vanuatu chasing his hopes and dreams and a means to provide for his family in Bangladesh. Instead, he says he was duped by human traffickers who enslaved and tortured him and dozens of others. Although free from his former captors now, Mr. Khan is heavily indebted and unable to work legally in Vanuatu.
I have been tortured. I was starving. It's very horrible situation. Actually, our heart is burning, You can stop.
Mr. Khan's testimony is one of 101 Bangladeshi men who paint a grim picture of migrants lured by a businessman who promised the world only to snatch it away. Vanuatu's public prosecutor, Josiah Nagulevu, has told local newspaper The Daily Post that it might be the biggest case of human trafficking in the Pacific. For months, the group was forced to work long hours for no pay, kept in squalid conditions and given little food, often only rice and boiled cabbage. Anne Pakua, head of the Vanuatu Human Rights Coalition, says if they spoke out, the punishments were brutal.
No one was allowed to say something bad, and if someone said something bad, either about food
or the conditions, that's what would happen. They would take them outside of town and bash them up like really, really bad.
Victims say they were promised construction work in Vanuatu, paying up to $5,000 per month, nearly 50 times the national average in Bangladesh. Many paid as much as $25,000 to get there, scrounging and mortgaging their homes in the process. And Pakua says 4 people have been charged in connection with human trafficking and are now before the courts. Their arrests followed a November police raid which freed more than 100 men, according to Shaheen Khan, who was able to escape and alert authorities. Ms. Pakua says the case has been adjourned until April because the defendants said they needed a translator.
For us, as human rights defenders, we're worried about what's happening currently, what's happening back home. Their kids are not in school, their families don't have enough to eat.
Meanwhile, the migrants are under government care, aren't able to work in Vanuatu and face crippling debts. Shaheen Khan says he, like many others, fears he will be killed by loan sharks if he returns to Bangladesh.
If we go back now, what we'll do, we have nothing to do except commit suicide, kill ourselves. Because people will kill us, because we have to pay the money.
Advocates and victims say the government, which couldn't be reached for comment, won't let them leave Vanuatu until the case is resolved in court. Opposition MP Ishmael Kausakau says the government needs to repatriate the men and strengthen its immigration laws. For Checkpoint, call Mackenzie Smith, Tēnei.
It's approaching 4 minutes to 6. Auckland Council has announced a new e-scooter trial will run in the city until the end of October. The council is promising there'll be stricter conditions for the e-scooter operators Lime as well as Wave, and there'll be new fees, but it won't say yet what those are. The council also says it will be lobbying the government to introduce a national regulatory framework for e-scooters. Auckland Transport's Chief Executive Shane Ellis told our reporter Nita Blake-Person that Lime and Wave will be required to do more reporting on their e-scooters over the coming months.
Ensuring that we know that scooters are being maintained on a regular basis and fit for purpose.
So could that be some type of warrant of fitness?
No, it'll be more around the e-scooter operators having maintenance procedures in place that assure us that, every scooter's being maintained on a regular basis.
That's not in place at the moment?
No, what we're saying is we want to have the assurance, so the reporting of that, we want to have the assurance that it is actually happening.
You say that there's a need for a regulatory framework for e-scooters, but given that this is a trial and Auckland Council sets the conditions for the trial, why is there not more you guys can do before they're rolled out in terms of controls and rules?
Oh, look, there's some conditions things like the wearing of helmets, speed, and other elements which are not within our power to set. They're actually set or should be set by central government. And in fact, in some cases, we've seen in other centres, such as Dunedin in the last few days, where they have taken a similar view, whereby more regulations required. In that case, they didn't have the powers that Auckland have, for example, but our view is very strongly that there needs to be a consistent national framework for not just e-scooters but other micro-mobility devices based on what we've seen so far in terms of the trial.
So why not put this trial on hold until that comes into place? Why wait and keep advocating while those issues still exist?
Based on the information we have today, if we weren't, there are other e-scooters out there on the streets. It's not just Lime and Wave. There are a number of other e-scooters out there. Just if Lime and Wave weren't operating, it would not change the fact that e-scooters were on the streets.
But they are the ones that you have control over.
We don't have. We have limited power to control, and it's better that we apply some control than none at all. And the only reason we have any control is that they trade from the street. There is nothing to stop a private operator, for instance, operating off private land, and we would have no control at all in those circumstances.
So if they were all in car parks?
Correct, exactly.
But that's a totally different thing to the situation that exists. Like, you could just put this on hold, couldn't you, until those regulations were put in place by the government to have it sorted first?
Yeah, that is an option, but we're also seeing a number of benefits as well. I mean, if you look at the ACC data, for example, it tells us the relativity of the number of incidents with e-scooters compared with other scooters, and there are far more incidents just with normal scooters that are out there. So these things have to be looked at in balance.
Shane Ellis from Auckland Transport speaking to probably the country's most authoritative reporter on Lime scooters, Nita Blake Person. Time now for some of your feedback. Someone has got in touch on the text about Logan Church's interview with mosque survivor Al Sinawi. You can go and look at that online, actually, because it's a moving interview with Al Sinawi from his hospital bed. They say this person says it was particularly moving. He showed indescribable bravery and courage on the 15th of March and so generously spoke to Logan today in his hospital bed while his brothers and sisters were in Hagley Park at the service. I would like him to know he has the love and support of many New Zealanders as he faces the next few years of rehabilitating back to his life again. Assalamu alaikum and peace. That's from Helen and Mike. Thanks for getting in touch.
RNZ News at 6. Ngā mihi nui ko Susana Leata tēnei. More than 20,000 people poured into Christchurch's Hagley Park today for the National Remembrance Service, marking 2 weeks since the mosque terror attacks. Members of the Muslim community addressed those gathered, speaking of sadness and grief, but also forgiveness and hope. Our political reporter Craig McCulloch was there.
Heads were bowed and tears shed among those gathered, as all 50 names of those killed in the attacks were broadcast around the park. Farid Ahmed was one of the survivors. His wife Husna was not. His speech brought people to their feet with loud applause as he told them his faith had allowed him to choose love and peace and to forgive the shooter. The longest applause, though, was reserved for the Prime Minister, who challenged all New Zealanders to make the country a place without racism, violence or extremism. From Christchurch, Craig McCulloch.
Hundreds of people also gathered at Eden Park this afternoon for Auckland's own remembrance service. In a speech, the Muslim rugby star Sonny Bill Williams urged Kiwis to continue showing their love and support for the Muslim community.
We cannot and will not allow such acts to deter us from loving one another. And just like in the last couple of weeks, New Zealanders, I just want to say let's keep leading the way. Let's keep being that light in stormy waters for the rest of the world to see how it's done.
Sonny Bill Williams addressing the Eden Park service this afternoon. A 17-month-old baby found critically injured in Tauranga 2 days ago has died at Auckland Starship Hospital. The police say they're investigating how the child was injured, including making inquiries in the Maungatapu area yesterday. They say several people are cooperating with them. Junior hospital doctors have voted to strike for a 5th time this year now that bargaining with the district health boards has stalled this month. Members of the Resident Doctors Association will strike for 4 days from April the 15th, but not in Canterbury because of the terror attacks. A union advocate, David Munro, says they voted overwhelmingly to strike, though with natural reservations.
Nobody becomes a doctor to have to go on strike. They become doctors because they want to help patients and make a contribution to the world. So it's something that they find very difficult indeed.
David Munro says the doctors will have another session of mediation with the DHBs next Friday. The Transport Agency is contacting about 900 owners of vehicles who may have wrongly been given warrants of fitness by a Waikato garage. Vehicle Inspector Oliver Wilson and his business Cambridge Auto Electric have been suspended for serious failings over the past 2 years. Most seriously, the failure to spot corrosion and seatbelt damage. Owners are being offered vouchers to have their vehicles rechecked free of charge. Huawei has been strongly criticised in a new report from Britain's National Cybersecurity Centre. It says there are questions about the long-term security risks linked to the Chinese telco's equipment. The BBC's Gordon Correra reports.
This report reflects deep frustrations among officials at the failure of Huawei to deal with security concerns which have been raised in the past. There is no allegation the company is deliberately working on behalf of the Chinese state to spy, but rather that its poor engineering and software design practices have created vulnerabilities in equipment it supplies to UK telecoms providers. Huawei said it took the concerns very seriously and was investing $2 billion to deal with the problems in the next 3 to 5 years. But the UK Oversight Board says it has not yet seen a credible plan.
Gordon Correra with that report. The United Nations Secretary-General Antonio Guterres has told world leaders to bring concrete plans to September's climate summit. Our correspondent William Denzilo reports from UN headquarters in New York.
During September's climate summit, the United Nations Secretary-General says he wants plans delivered by world leaders, not speeches. Antonio Guterres adds that he wants to see initiatives on areas such as energy, resilience to climate impacts and sustainable agriculture. Guterres said that climate change is moving faster than our efforts to address it. The report states that the past 4 years have been the hottest on record and that it's a trend slated to continue. William Denzelo, New York.
The South Westland township of Fox Glacier is still without phone or internet services since this week's big storm. When the Waihor Bridge was washed away by floodwaters on Tuesday, the Chorus fibre cable went with it. Chorus says its staff have been working all day to install poles on either side of the river to run fibre across and reconnect the network. It hopes to have services restored this evening. Vodafone has installed a temporary cell phone mast in the township centre, which allows some mobile phone users to send texts. However, Spark says it has not been able to do anything similar because of the way its network is configured. It's 6:05. The Hurricanes' largely inexperienced pack has copped plenty of criticism so far this Super Rugby season, but coach John Plumtree is expecting his tight five to front up against the Crusaders in Wellington tonight. The side's only loss in 6 games this season came in Christchurch in round 2 when the Crusaders dominated the forward battle, and Plumtree concedes his charges are up against it again.
They're working hard together. And we know what a massive challenge it is, but one thing I've got to give the boys some credit for is just their character and their guts that they're showing. We're not getting it perfect every time, but right now we're doing enough. So but we know that the challenge this week goes up a couple of notches from what it was last week.
John Plumtree. 2 bogeys on the back 9 have left Lydia Ko off the pace at the latest LPGA event in California. The New Zealander carded a 1 under par opening round of 71 to be 6 shots off the lead. 5 times world darts champion Raymond van Barneveld is retiring from the sport. The Dutchman's Premier League career ended with a 7-1 defeat by compatriot Michael van Gerwen in Rotterdam, and he says he's no longer good enough to compete at the highest level. And Californian horse racing authorities are to limit the use of medications and whips following the death of 22 horses at the Santa Anita track this year. Jockeys will still carry whips during races, but only be able to use them for safety reasons, not to make their horses run faster. That's the news.
My 2 dogs are my best mates. We have Tess, now 12. Her hearing's not as good as it was, but she and I love each other to bits, and she's the best dog I've ever had. Most heading dogs don't bark, but Tess barked from an early age. Yeah, all I have to say to her is speak.
A farmer and his dog. Friends on Country Life. Friday night at 9, Saturday morning at 7, RNZ National.
Now the short forecast from Met Service to midnight tomorrow. Northland to Taranaki, including Coromandel, Bay of Plenty and the Central High Country, as well as Gisborne and Hawke's Bay. Scattered showers, some possibly heavy, mainly during the afternoons and evenings. Whanganui to Wellington, mostly fine. Wairarapa, cloudy periods with isolated light showers. Bulla to Fiordland, mainly fine today, a few showers tomorrow, some possibly heavy about the ranges from the afternoon. For Nelson, Marlborough, Canterbury, Otago and Southland, fine, apart from areas of cloud, mainly morning and evening. Chatham Islands, cloudy periods with a few showers tomorrow. It's coming up to 8 minutes past 6. You're with RNZ National, and we go now to Logan Church, live in Christchurch.
Kia ora, good evening, welcome to Checkpoint. I'm Logan Church in Christchurch. We are tonight broadcasting live outside the Al Noor Mosque, 2 weeks on from those terror attacks which claimed the lives of 50 people here in Christchurch. Today, an estimated 20,000 people gathered in North Hagley Park just in front of me for a remembrance service, which paid tribute not only to those who lost their lives, but also to those who were injured and survived. Around the country, crowds also gathered in Auckland, Wellington and Dunedin, as well as other centres, to hold their own services or watch the live stream. Here's Craig McCulloch.
I've been crying lately, thinking about the world as it is. I've been crying lately, thinking about the world as it is.
Yusuf Islam, a man known to most as Cat Stevens, his voice filling Hagley Park. The 70-year-old singer was invited to perform by the Muslim community and set the tone for the service. Moving, subdued, but more than anything else, hopeful.
Oh, I've been happy lately, thinking about the good things to come.
It was the recurrent theme of the day, hope springing from tragedy. The head of Canterbury's Muslim Association, Shagaf Khan, giving voice to the sentiment.
From this hate, how much love has been shared. From this callousness, how much compassion has been shown. From this despair, how much hope has sprung. And out of this darkness, how much light has been spread.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم.
One by one, 50 names were read aloud by members of the Muslim community, the 50 fallen.
أحمد جمال الدين محمد عبد الغني. أسامة عدنان يوسف أبو كويك. Husna Ahmed.
Husna Ahmed was among the names of those killed. Her husband Fareed, who survived, addressed the service, the crowd watching on as he spoke the almost unthinkable forgiveness. He had forgiven, he said, the man who a fortnight ago had killed his wife.
Because this heart doesn't want any more lives to be lost. This heart doesn't like that the pain I have gone through, that any human being should go through that kind of pain. That's why I have chosen peace, I have chosen love, and I have forgiven.
His speech earned him a standing ovation, an audience in awe, many in tears. The Prime Minister Jacinda Ardern was the only other to get such a reaction, her ovation beginning before she even began speaking.
And we remember that ours is a home that does not and cannot claim perfection, but we can strive to be true to the words embedded in our national anthem. Men of every creed and race, gather here before thy face, asking thee to bless this place. God defend our free land.
The crowd numbered more than 20,000, many more tuning in from around the country and the globe. Among those at Hagley Park, a Muslim student from St Margaret's College, Raha Walker, 16 years old.
I've never seen so much solidarity in Christchurch, you know, so many communities coming together, people that I saw mongrel mob members hugging people that I knew from the mosque, and I was just very confused but also touched at the same time.
Ko Tātou Tātou, We Are One was the event's official name, and a message which rang out in every speech and heart. From Christchurch for Checkpoint, Craig McCulloch.
The police and Christchurch City Council staff kept a watchful eye over Friday prayers in Hagley Park this afternoon. Hundreds of people from the local, national and international Muslim community congregated in a fenced-off area that had been specifically set up in the north of the park. Joanna McKenzie was there.
After the morning's National Remembrance service, Hagley Park slowly emptied out. Some Muslims thought prayers would be at the Al Noor Mosque, but word quickly spread that they would be in the park again. From 1 o'clock, a steady stream of people began slowly filing into the north end of Hagley Park, where a special area had been set aside for the Muslim community. The City Council set up a fenced area with running water for people to be able to wash before prayers. Armed police patrolled outside the fence, and one officer watched over the prayers from 25 metres in the air in a fire service aerial platform. Fozan Ali from Auckland says it's very special that so many from the Muslim community can all come together to pray.
The council's, it's amazing work from them, and to organise something at this level requires a lot of organising and planning, and they've done a great job for that. We thank them for that.
Some people were worried there'd be nowhere to wash before prayers, but Mayor Leanne Dalzell says the council has learnt a lot since last week's prayer in South Hagley Park.
We were invited to attend the call to prayer last week. This week we're simply allowing for that to happen close to where we've had this extraordinary remembrance service today. We learnt a lot last week and we know now what to do.
After prayers were finished, those leaving say it was another special moment for the Muslim community. Karma Zaror says the police presence made her feel safe.
Comforting, yeah, to know that no matter what. Because even Mum asked me, no one's did back checks, and it doesn't matter, the police everywhere, helicopters going around, it just feels a lot safer.
Mohammed Abdir's father died in the attacks. He feels reassured praying in the park with the police presence and deeply moved by the city's display of support for Friday prayers.
It's very special, absolutely unique. It's very symbolic, to have all this, everyone come out. It's the opposite of what the evil man wanted to do.
Bilal Nasir says having another very visible Friday prayers is important for those trying to heal after March the 15th.
There's a lot of people who need that support and who need to see that, who really need to see that solidarity and support. So for this to continue, I think, for us to remember it, and however that looks, whether it's like a Jummah prayers like this or some kind of other memorial service for years to come, for them to have that recognition well into the future is going to be very, very important.
After prayers, people hugged and said farewell to friends old and new and thanked those who had travelled long distances to Christchurch to be here for today. In Hagley Park for Checkpoint, called Joanna Mackenzie-Ho.
Now, one of the most stirring speeches at this morning's ceremony was from survivor Farid Ahmed, who lost his wife in the terror attack. Mr. Ahmed, who uses a wheelchair, told the crowd he forgave the gunman, and afterwards he told Lisa Owen why.
Islam taught us that if we forgive, then Allah will forgive us, Allah will love us. And I quoted a verse which says that those who control their anger and forgive the fellow man, then they are good doers and Allah loves them. So that was one reason. The second reason I gave that we follow a prophet. He is called by God mercy for the worlds. So if I truly follow him, then I have to show some mercy. And the third reason I gave that I don't want to choose a heart for myself that is like a volcano.
What do you mean by that?
It means a heart that has rage, anger, fury, balance, all these things. These things takes away peace from our heart.
What's in your heart at the moment?
Peace, love. I have love for the entire mankind, for all the people, and I feel peace by having that in my mind, in my heart.
People will find that remarkable after what's happened to your family, the loss of your wife. How do you reach that place of peace?
I think that Allah has helped me, and this is how I am brought up. This is what I have been teaching all my life. For the last 20 years, my wife and myself, we were teaching in the mosque to the new generations. We were teaching this sort of things. Be a good person, be a good citizen, be a good human, and be loving and caring. So I have been preaching that, and God tested me through a loss. And I'm very pleased that I could stand on what I was preaching.
Because sometimes it is hard to put into practice a lesson that you teach. Sometimes when you're challenged, it's hard to be true to that lesson. Have you found it hard?
No, because after the shooting, I was at the back. I went inside and I saw the dead body, but not for a second I felt hatred. You know, I was worried about people. I was worried about what would be the, reaction from that. I didn't want to lose any more lives. I was thinking of all of this, and I never had to struggle, to be honest, to forgive, because probably my heart was ready like this.
Can you tell us something of your wife today, as we remember the people whose names were read out? What would you like people to know of her?
She was a person we all can learn from her. She was a person who gave life to save others.
To be involved this morning and to speak from the stage to all those people who'd come to remember, what was that like?
It was like the true spirit of New Zealand. I always knew, I always believed, and I was sure that New Zealanders are like that. And today was that exhibition for that, for the rest of the world.
They showed you love?
Yes, and they showed the world that we New Zealanders, we love one another truly.
While some people at today's service grieved by crying or hugging their loved ones, one man simply decided to paint. Aslan Haj Mustafa travelled to Christchurch from Jordan 5 days ago after he learnt that his cousin had been killed in the terror attacks 2 weeks ago. Cameraman Simon Rogers and I found him painting in the crowd.
I lost my cousin here in the terrorist attack, so I lost my cousin and his son, Khalid and Hamza Haj Mustafa.
Oh, I'm very sorry to hear that. So why are you painting?
I hope to do something for peace, this sign, peace sign, and this salam and cross together. And I saw James church, so I liked to draw beside the Noor Mosque. So, and I write here, terrorism has no religion. So that's what we believe.
And you started this yesterday?
Yesterday, yeah.
And you're painting in front of the Al Noor Mosque?
Yeah.
Why paint outside the mosque?
Because it's, I don't find word to how I feel. So in my paint, I can show the people what I feel inside me. So for that, I paint.
And in the middle of the grief and sadness of today's remembrance service, one man was putting a smile on people's faces. Marcus Hari Panomo set up a small table in the entrance of the service and was giving away hundreds of free headscarves. He told me that he got the idea for this in the wee hours of the morning.
This is part of 250 scarf that we made, not me. I just initiate, and a lot of ladies in Christchurch, they contribute their time by sewing it. So, and we will give it for free for the message of respect and solidarity for our brother and sister from the Noor and Linwood tragedy.
So where did the idea come from to give away 250 headscarves?
Actually, in the morning I watched the TV, and then they say, "Hi, look, a lot of ladies wearing the scarf when they put the flower on the scene or at the Hagley Park," and then even the presenter have a scarf, and then I thought, oh, bang, I have a lot of off-cut material, and then I call the lady. So this is the idea, and not only that, they are also thinking to make another scarf for the police that being dispatched from all over New Zealand, kind of gesture, and we will write a simple word like Kia kaha te aroha.
You're doing all this for free?
Yeah, because we have it, why we don't make everybody kind of remembrance, This is 50 people in 10 minutes, they're being shot. And look, 32 widows and 32 widows that they're without a family.
How many scarves do you think you've given away today?
I think maybe around 80, because some of them already gone when we just walk here. Yeah.
Here with your table and the boxes.
Yes, and then also they can write to the scarf kind of what they like, and then they wear it.
And that's it from us in Christchurch tonight. We're going to leave you now with Yusuf Islam, formerly known as Cat Stevens, from Hagley Park today with one of his performances. But from me, Logan Church, Lisa Owen and the rest of the Checkpoint and RNZ team here in Christchurch and around New Zealand, have a good weekend and good night.
Has this peace train been gone? How long, tell me how long? I came to the station with a hope inside, hoping to see that peace train arrive. How long, tell me how long? I've been crying lately, thinking about the world as it is. I've been crying lately, thinking about the world as it is. Why must we go on hating? Why can't we live in bliss? About the good things to come, and I believe it could be something good has begun. Oh, I've been smiling lately, dreaming about the world as one, and I believe it could be someday it's gonna come. 'Cause out on the edge of darkness there rides a peace train. Oh, peace train, take this country, come take me home again. Yes, I've been smiling lately, thinking about the good things to come, and I believe it could be something good has begun. Oh, peace train sounding louder, glide on the peace train. Ooh, come on, peace train. Train, holy roller, everyone jump up on the peace train. Ooh, come on, peace train. Now get your bags together, go bring your good friends too, 'cause it's getting nearer, it soon will be with you. Let's come and join the living, it's not so far from you, and it's getting nearer, soon it will all be true. Oh, peace train sounding loud, glide on the peace train. Ooh, come on, peace train. This peace train, holy roller, everyone jump upon the peace train. Ooh, come on, peace train. Been crying lately, thinking about the world as it is. Why must we go on hating? Why can't we live in bliss? 'Cause out on the edge of darkness there rides a peace train. Oh, peace train, take this country, come take me home again. Oh, peace train sounding loud, glide on the peace train. Peace train, this peace train, holy roller, everyone jump up on the peace train. Ooh, come on, come on, come on, come on, peace train, yeah. This
It's coming up to 6:30 on RNZ National. Here are the latest RNZ News headlines. Speakers at remembrance gatherings across the country today have delivered messages of tolerance, peace, hope and forgiveness. A Christchurch bus driver caught on video purposely shutting the door in the face of a woman who was wearing a hijab is facing disciplinary action. Junior hospital doctors have voted to strike again next month, but not in Canterbury because of the terror attacks. 900 owners of vehicles who may have been wrongly given warrants of fitness by Vehicle Inspector Oliver Wilson in Waikato are being offered vouchers to have their vehicles rechecked free of charge. The state of emergency declared in Westland has been lifted, but Fox Glacier is still without phone or internet services and the power is off in Haast. And swimmers are being warned to stay out of the water in Wellington's inner harbour and off its popular dive platforms because of raw sewage contamination. Those are the headlines. Our next news will be at 7.
Take the pulse of the day's news every weeknight at 10.
They've been complicit with facilitating the continuation of white nationalist and separatist content.
Lately with me, Karen Hay, is your late night eye on the latest headlines and the people who are making them.
Big law changes will be coming in where employers will be forced to accommodate unions accessing the property as they want to.
Live with local, national and international stories as they happen. Did you commission that report after Christchurch?
Absolutely. It was totally in response to Christchurch.
Up to date if you're up late. Lately with Karen Hay every weeknight from 10 on RNZ National.
This is Trending Now, our feature highlighting the stories you've been sharing via digital and social media. Coming up before 7, this week's edition of Focus on Politics.